Hey guys, welcome to Nerd Central, better known as Comic Comments. I'm Matt and I am joined by
Pete.
We're going to start by doing our usual cleaning up. So there's a few things that we didn't understand as per usual, things we've had to research into. The first thing I want to talk about is the Braddocks, which we'd never heard of. We've heard of Psylocke, we know of Psylocke. She is the twin of Brian Braddock, who is Captain Britain. So that's something I didn't know, that I've looked into, and as I'm reading past stories, I'm like, oh yeah, there he is. And then we have Jamie Braddock, who's their brother. I would assume they're all mutants, because Psylocke's definitely one, Jamie's definitely one.
So
So
I assume that
Brian must be
one as
one.
well.
And Jamie has reality-altering powers. He's also schizophrenic, which on every profile I looked at was a big point. So I'm assuming that comes into some story somewhere, because otherwise why? Like, you only give information about characters if it's relevant to the story. Otherwise I don't care. So we've also questioned as well why Hulk was called Doc Green, because we started reading Secret Wars, and I was like, Doc Green, okay. It turns out though, because I'm in the midst of reading, there was the Hulk Banner Dead on Arrival storyline that ran through Marvel Now Hulk issues 1 to 4. I have 1 to 3. I'm looking for 4 at the moment. It turns out that story that I'm enjoying thoroughly is actually a big part of that, which people now explain. And it was funny because he was like, I know why he's called Doc Green. You know that story you've been reading? Here's major spoilers for that story you've been reading. So I was just like, awesome. I guess we need it for the show.
Yeah.
Plus, the likelihood of me finding issue 4 is very slim at the moment. I'm always like, 1, 2, 3, 5. Why?
So basically, after Banner got shot in the back of the head and got brain damage, they injected Extremis into his brain to repair everything. And he's sane now, and he doesn't like being called Hulk because it's too savage. So Doc Green.
Yeah, which is a lame name. I guess as an endearing nickname, I like Doc Green, but Doc Green sounds like the kind of superhero where it's just as a name.
But in his movie...
he's Mr. Green.
He is.
But that's his alias because he's green.
Exactly.
And then there's Mr. Blue. Also, with that movie, they set up for the leader, because Samuel Stearns has a cut on his head, Hulk's blood goes into his head, and it starts... You gonna do anything with that, Marvel? Or... This is another thing I'm going to complain about, was we did Secret Wars issue 2, and we were disappointed with the fact, we were treated to this gorgeous cover on the first one, and then they gave us the fucking shit paper cover, which I was not a fan of. I've recently just picked up Convergence 1, which we will be doing at some point. And I was like, oh, look at that, look how nice, it was a nice cover. And then I was just like, I want more of these. So, I also don't like hardback covers. There are stories that I want, but they're only in hardback, like Rage of Ultron, which is also a rip-off. And because this thing, Rage of Ultron is a tiny, tiny story, but it's £19. Because they're like, yeah, but it's hardback. And I'm like, okay, make a paperback and I'll buy it. I should probably talk about the links as well. Obviously, you can go to facebook.com/comiccommentsyt, and that's our main home and hub. You can also go to my Twitter, which is @MusicNinjaMatt, and just give us feedback, comments, and stuff like that. You don't actually use your Twitter that much.
No.
So we've decided that obviously you can be like, hey Matt, I've got a question for Pete, and you can just do it through my Twitter. Also, if you go into the description below, this will be on all our videos, you will be able to find the playlist so you can watch any episode of Comic Comments that way. Last thing I guess this isn't really a clean up thing, this is just an extra little tidbit, is that they cast Spider-Man. I think it's Asa Butterfield, because Asa doesn't sound like a name. But he was cast as Spider-Man, and people are like, what does everyone think? And I think the whole Marvel fan base just went, okay, yeah, why not? He was Hugo in Hugo, and was he the boy in striped pajamas, or was he the other one?
He was the other one.
He was the other one. He was the boy in clothes. He wasn't in pajamas.
And he was Ender in Ender's Game.
Yeah. So he enjoys those self-taught, and now he's going to be Spider-Man in Spider-Man. So there you have it. I'm excited as well because Spider-Man's getting its own film in 2017, and rumours have been they might call it Spider-Man the New Avenger, because we had Captain America the First Avenger, Spider-Man's the New Avenger. Do that, because you can't just call it Spider-Man, because we've already had a Spider-Man, we've had the Amazing Spider-Man, unless they do something really stupid and they're like, Spectacular Spider-Man, and I'll be like, no. Anyway, let's get into the main title. So this week we are doing, because we've got a 2-week gap now until the next Secret Wars comes out, so we thought we'd go back and do the original Secret Wars from 1984. Here it is in its trade paperback glory, the 30th anniversary edition. I was so happy when I found this in HMV. You picked up your copy from HMV, did you not?
I did.
Secret Wars is written by Jim Shooter, and it's drawn by Mike Zeck and Bob Layton. First thoughts, what was your immediate reaction to this?
It was a good story. I liked it. I wasn't keen on the artwork, but I grew to like it over time.
It was more, didn't you say, like, I guess it's just it's always difficult to go back to read the older stories, because this is one of, like, the first major crossover events. But, like, you read something like Civil War, and Civil War's art, to me, is, like, my favourite art. And then you read this. Like, I don't know, because sometimes they draw backgrounds, other times you just get these block colours. Yeah, it's alright. It's fun. Fun art.
What did you think of it?
I loved it, really. Like, I'd heard about it, I'd heard about the idea, and then considering we're going to talk about how this story came about, and when I heard like how the story came about, I was kind of like, oh god, this is not going to be good. But it's just fun. Like, it's a big story that's made up of amazing moments. Like, there's so many like cool things in this book. Can't really fault it, apart from I felt it went on too long. Like, this is 12 issues. I reckon you could have done it in 10. This book basically came about because one of Mattel's competitors was doing DC toys, and so Mattel and Marvel put together a deal, and they were like, we're going to do a line of Marvel toys, but we want a big event that's going to, like, you know, draw attention to this new toy line. And they'd, you know, a lot of the ideas for this book, like Black Suit Spider-Man, like the idea for the war and stuff, a lot of it was inspired by fan suggestions as well. But they were basically like, yeah, we need everybody in a story. So that's how Secret Wars came about. So with the story, there's a nice little... It's just a basic newspaper clipping from the Daily Bugle, but it gives you all the backstory that you need. The book starts and we just get to see sort of who is in Secret Wars. And we've got the Avengers, the Fantastic Four, the X-Men, and, well, I say Fantastic Four, Sue Storm is not there, and Magneto, which is kind of a weird thing, but it's explained why he's there.
So basically, Magneto, his desires were for mutants to be accepted, and so his desires were for other people. Same with all the heroes, they wanted to help other people, whereas all the villains, they had desires for themselves, so Magneto was shoved with the heroes.
There's all the heroes, they're on one life raft, and on the other one is all the villains. It feels like quite a weak villain list. Like, the more I look at it, the more I'm like, really?
Yeah.
We've got the Wrecking Crew, who are just... Like, when I saw them in New Avengers, like, they're cooler in New Avengers than they are in this, but still. Enchantress, Ultron, Absorbing Man, Lizard, Dr. Octopus, Molecule Man, Galactus, Kang, and Doctor Doom. So it's like I said, some great villains, some not so much.
There's this galaxy that just gets destroyed and all the heroes and villains are in awe, and then little pieces of the galaxy just come together to make this like patchwork world.
And of course that makes up Battleworld.
Yeah.
Yay. With Ultron being one of the bad guys, Ultron does his usual, well, you're humanity, so I'm gonna just fucking kill you all. And Galactus he just flies up to Galactus and Galactus just vaporizes him. But there's a lot of classic bad guys fighting amongst each other. The rules are then explained to everybody in quite like basic terms. Vanquish your enemy and your like desires will come true. Galactus and Doom kind of take exception to the Beyonder because they of course feel that they're just powerful. They go and the Beyonder just blasts them back like it's absolutely nothing, and this triggers Doom's kind of like, okay, I want that power. And that is a big thing in this story. That drives Doom, basically the entire book, is I want that power. So Magneto, obviously being with the good guys, causes a stir. Cracks start to appear kind of situation.
And then Magneto just flies off on his own.
The first fight breaks out, and there's a lot of these fights throughout the book. They're just like, there is just pages and pages of people just beating the crap out of each other. Not really driving much to the story, but you gotta love a good comic book fight. Especially when it's pages and pages. Like, some people don't like that, but I'd much prefer like a cinematic looking fight than 2 pages and a couple of panels of somebody getting knocked out in a punch. You know, so the good guys win the first fight, of course, and they end up taking prisoners. I think that includes the Wrecking Crew and Kang. By this point, I think Doom's gone off on his own, and he finds Doom Base. Because everything is Doom. Like, Doom's the character that speaks in third person, and has Doom Guard, and Doom Base, and all things Doom. He's like 1960s Batman. As long as it's got Bat in the name, as long as it's got Doom in the name. So he finds Doom Base, and he ends up rebuilding Ultron. So Ultron now answers to Doom, which is very, very important for Doom, because this means when the other bad guys turn up and he says, you're going to answer to me, this is my team, they don't argue, because you have Ultron at your disposal, which is, I think it's kind of a neat idea. Like, I like the fact that it was, yes, Ultron is kind of Doom's bitch, but he's still, like, a badass motherfucker. Like, you don't screw with Ultron.
He's extremely powerful.
Like, this is a big thing in comics as well. Protect your villains, because you can't have villains that you say, like, they could destroy the world. These are, like, the strongest villains. And then if you make them look weak at any point, the next time they're going to destroy the world, we're not going to believe it. We're not going to care. There ends up being another fight where Magneto captures Wasp and takes her away with him. And then he goes into this... I've never seen Magneto like this in any other story, because he literally becomes like James Bond out of nowhere, and he's like, yes, sit, we'll just chill here, we have food and wine. Him and Wasp end up like making out, which like shocked me, because I was just like, why Wasp?
It came out of nowhere.
Yeah. However, it was more of a, she's just leading him on, and first chance she gets, she's out of there. The X-Men end up breaking away, because they're just having a nice private chat of like, yeah, maybe we should go off, be our own faction. Spider-Man doesn't seem to dig that too much, so they have another fight. However much fighting there may be in this, there's also an equal amount of story going on, which is why I think I like this. If this was 12 issues of fighting, I would have, after about 2, just been like, no. So, I mean, what are you more into, like action or story? Or
It needs to be both.
Yeah. Yeah, because I find myself, though, like, if I'm reading something, and I'm kind of like, action scene, and it's the story parts where I'm going, oh shit, and I'm there just really sort of gripped on it. And it's dialogue as well, obviously, in a comic book is so important. I mean, it's I do like the dialogue in this for its time. We also have new characters introduced into this. I quite like both of them. They're not like stupid characters in my opinion.
No, they're
Relevant. They're like random but relevant.
but yeah,
Would you
and
say?
they've got quite good powers as well.
Yeah, because we have these two women who become Volcana and Titania. Titania has super strength. Volcana's kind of like Human Torch, only it's supposed to be like not fire but more volcanic.
Just heat,
Yeah.
really.
Doom uses the advanced technology to give them powers.
A 6-block, like, chunk of Denver from Earth just came into Battleworld, and it just made up part of Battleworld, so Doom must have found them in Denver.
Titania has a sort of thing with Absorbing Man, and Volcana grows to fall in love with Molecule Man. Again, like, Molecule Man is a character that I felt was such a throwaway until I read this. But yeah, throughout this book we have Hulk, and he has Banner's brain, but he's starting to slip back into Savage Hulk. But he's just a miserable git the whole book, and he just complains and he just wants to smash things. And it's a shame because Hulk's my favourite superhero, and in this he's just a bit of a downer on the story, really. But with Hulk, I would say his shining moment comes in the form of Molecule Man is basically like, yeah, I'll take care of the Avengers, and just picks up a mountain and drops it on them, which is when you're first like, oh, Molecule Man can do some damage. But Hulk, being Hulk, catches the mountain. Did you say it was Mr. Fantastic?
Yeah, Mr. Fantastic.
He'll take... I knew he took some of Iron Man's tech, he took Spider-Man's web shooters, and just bits and pieces to create a blast that will enable them to escape. We see that the X-Men actually end up joining Magneto in Magneto's little base. Our heroes then, obviously, after having a mountain dropped on them, are in need of aid, and they go to this village, and there's a healer there, and just her touch can heal people. She heals Human Torch, and they end up having a bit of a thing. They clearly bang.
Yeah.
Yeah, talk about sex being on fire. Thing has been going between Thing and Ben Grimm, and it's kind of that first hint of, well, they've won a couple of fights and it's like his desire coming true. This is where Galactus starts to come into things a lot more, because he was blasted back by the Beyonder, and then he just is atop this mountain, and that's all he's really doing. But everybody's keeping an eye on him, and he brings over his ship, his home world. He uses that technology to start building the machine to be able to convert the planet into energy. He gets disrupted and then has to change his plans, but obviously he needs to get his energy from somewhere after fighting with the Beyonder, because he's incapacitated for quite a while. We have a lot of stuff going on with the X-Men team. We have Rogue has just joined the X-Men at this point, and we have Professor X is able to walk in this, and so he wants to take more of a role in commanding the X-Men on the battlefield by sending telepathic commands. But this causes some fights between Storm and Professor X, because Storm is the leader of the X-Men at this point, and she doesn't like that. She's kind of being butted out. We meet back up with Wasp, and she's in a swamp, and she finds Lizard, because Lizard hasn't been seen really since they were released onto Battleworld. And Lizard's been injured, and because Wasp's kind to him, he kind of grows fond of her. Wasp gets shot by the Wrecking Crew, and she's presumed dead. The Wrecking Crew pick up the Lizard, and they pick up the body of Wasp, and they deliver the body of Wasp to the heroes. And then She-Hulk goes apeshit and decides she's just going to go off and avenge Wasp's death. There's a lot of commotion and everything going on, and Doom has found his way onto Galactus' ship, where obviously he's seeing all this wondrous technology and what have you. He also finds Claw, because Claw was in the walls of the ship.
Yeah, and he uses one of Galactus's machines to take him out of the walls and make him into like a actual person.
Yeah, because he's just solid sound.
Yeah.
Spider-Woman shows up. Just Doom is then blasted off of Galactus's ship, along with Claw. Colossus is just sat the whole time saying about how much he misses Kitty Pryde, and he's very soppy in this, I would say, very poetic in his speech. But he ends up falling in love with the healer, the same healer that Human Torch has been with. Her and Colossus clearly bang, and it's just kind of like, okay, so maybe she wants one from each team. But then you're kind of like, so is Kitty okay with this? Like, did you ask? But yeah, with Wasp, it's kind of like the healer's able to find Wasp, and she's near death, and she heals her, but this makes the healer quite ill, and Colossus keeps, every time something bad happens, Colossus is like, oh, what about Saji? And he'll just disappear, and they're like, thanks, Colossus, because we didn't need you. The Avengers are able to save She-Hulk, because a lot of the big players really for the bad guys have been taken out. Amongst this fight, Thing turns back into Ben Grimm, and him and Hawkeye are running off, and they're like, we're just dudes, like, we don't have powers, what are we supposed to do? And they bump into Claw, and Claw has released the Lizard. And when the heroes fight, they come in, and you see Ben Grimm sat on the floor playing pat cake with Claw, and Hawkeye is just kind of stood there as well, and Lizard is like, please don't interrupt our game, or I will kill you. Because Lizard has this childlike mind, and Claw does too. Like, Claw is crazy in this book. Yeah. He rhymes and he sings.
He went insane when he was trapped in the walls of Galactus's ship, and because it's Galactus's ship, that would be enough to drive anyone insane.
Yeah.
And
I think that's a fair enough sort of assumption to make, yeah. Throughout the book, you're like, people are like, Iron Man's different, Iron Man's weird, and at this point, Tony Stark is dealing with his alcohol problems, and it's actually Rhodey inside the Iron Man suit. There's a machine for everything in this, like, machines to give people powers, and machines to heal people. There's also machines to that people get new clothes, and everyone's clothes are torn up, and so Spider-Man goes in and he sits down with this machine, and it's just a little black ball falls into his hand and then crawls all over his suit, and then we get our first glimpse of Black Suit Spider-Man. Doom comes back onto the scene, and basically everybody else is pretty much a prisoner at this point, but he just breaks out Claw. Doom makes like these lenses.
Yeah, he like slices Claw up, because Claw has the frequency of Galactus's ship because he was trapped in the walls. So he slices him up into lenses,
which obviously doesn't hurt him because he's just solid sound.
Yeah.
He uses the lenses as a way of, as Galactus is about to absorb his ship for energy, Doom's able to sort of strip the energy and put it into himself, so he now has the powers of Galactus. Doom takes on the Beyonder, he ends up winning, and he takes the Beyonder's powers. This gives Doom his face back, and Doom's just very like, oh, I'm done with humanity, like, I'm better than that, I'm meant for greater things. So he's much more chilled out, and he doesn't want to fight anymore. He wants to just use his powers to free his mother's spirit. Because it's cool, because in this you get like just 2 pages which kind of show you Doom's whole backstory, which I'd never actually seen before, so that was interesting for me to see. Molecule Man kind of tries to stand up to Doctor Doom, and Doctor Doom he shows Molecule Man that actually you're so much more powerful than you know, and Molecule Man is thankful for that. Molecule Man and Volcana and the rest of the bad guys end up going to Volcana's apartment in Denver, because they're just like, well, everyone else is busy, let's just slip away and escape now, because they're just fed up of just losing all the time. And Molecule Man basically decides he's going to carry that bit of Denver and just carry it back to Earth. And Dr. Octopus gets really annoyed at this because he's like, you don't understand how much time it will take to get back to Earth. This like light, this just little bit of energy, which is the Beyonder, is like travelling into people, and they go into like a sleepwalking state, but it can also recede back, and the Beyonder hides in the back of their mind, so they feel they're in control. But it goes into Hulk, then it goes into Spider-Woman, and it eventually goes into Claw. And Doom basically says, like, I can't have this power on show all the time because I could accidentally destroy a whole universe. And he's like, I can't sleep either, like, I really need to keep this under check and under control. Doom says to the heroes, just stay out of my way and we won't have any problems. And then the heroes kind of go off and they say, like, no, Doom cannot be allowed this power, so we need to stop him. At which point, just a bolt of lightning comes down and that's it. Like, you see Cap's shield is broken and we're just like, right, so Doom's just killed all the heroes.
Claw comes up with this idea that he explains to Doom about if Doom had, like, doubted that the heroes were actually dead, then they might have actually survived. Like, just him releasing his power might have saved them. That plants the doubt in Doom's mind.
Yes.
And then the heroes end up surviving.
Doom sort of goes into a mad panic, in which Claw says, well, give me some of your power, because of course the Beyonder is inside Claw. So give me some of your power and we can take out the heroes once and for all. The Avengers show up and they fight this double-page spread of the worst drawn monsters. Like, I just don't like that double-page spread at all.
But they're the exact monsters that Claw would create because he's still insane.
Cap runs in and Doom vaporizes him, but the doubt's there in the back of his mind, so Cap just keeps coming back to life, keeps running at him, and eventually just takes him out in classic smash him with a shield fashion. The Beyonder's able to take his powers back. This is where I feel like the story should have started to wrap itself up a bit more. But it's cool because I was like, oh, they gave Spider-Man this black suit, I wonder if they knew what they were going to do with it, and they did. Because Spider-Man says, like, when he wants to take his mask off, it just takes itself off, it just retracts. He can change his costume and it reacts to his thoughts. And he says to everyone, like, does anybody else's costume do that? And they're like, well, no, it's clothes. And it turns out that he actually used a different machine to them, so you're planted with this idea of Venom. Hulk's also, after the battle, injured, and he's on a crutch, and it's the dumbest thing I've ever seen. But they're like, oh, you have so much gamma radiation, you just break the healing machines. We then see, like, wishes start to come true. Kitty Pryde's dragon that is just does nothing, it disappears within seconds, that comes back. And Cap fixes his shield, and, you know, everybody's getting what they want. And then Mr. Fantastic's like, right, it's time that we all went home. And then Ben Grimm basically decides, I want to stay behind and just think for a bit. But it's towards this part where I just felt the story carried on too long. But Ben Grimm's like, he says, I can be Ben Grimm and the Thing. And I'm afraid that if I go back home, I'll just be the Thing again. Because interestingly enough, you had like Spider-Man, Fantastic Four, all these titles. And in one title, they went away, and then they all came back. And it was like, oh, so Spider-Man's got a black suit, and where's Ben Grimm? And there were all these kind of things, and Secret Wars is supposed to be, it's where they went, why all these changes happened. So that's Secret Wars as best as we can sort of could. Like, this is the thing, we try and condense down the stories, but there's so much in this that happened that it's difficult to condense it down. All in all, I really enjoyed the story. I cannot wait to see how the new Secret Wars, once it's finished, how it compares, how it differs. I definitely recommend this.
Yeah.
So guys, stick around because we've got a bunch of video ideas lined up for you. We're going to be doing Time Runs Out. We're going to be doing all 4 volumes. We're going to be mixing it up, doing some gaming stuff. There's a lot coming your way, so just stay tuned. As always, don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, and just share this around. The competition idea is still there. Basically, if 2 episodes back to back both get at least 100 views, we will be doing a giveaway. And yeah, just thank you for supporting the show if you have, and we will see you in the next one. So goodbye from me,
And bye from me.
and we will see you in the next one.